Okay, YouTube, this is part 6 of this video series, the final part of this series, and now I'm going to be rebuilding the whole entire rear end. I'm going to be doing changing the original oil seals and adding the shore seals. Now if you would want to do just the shore seals, I'll show you what to do, but I would highly recommend, if you're up to the challenge and have the tools and the patience to replace the original seals, I would highly recommend that. But if you don't, shore seals is a good fix. But I'm going to go the extra mile and try to make it even better. So stay tuned. We're going to jump right in, and let's start digging in and get this project done with. Okay, the first thing you want to do before you pull the axles out is to relieve any brake tension. So if you want to get your 1/2-inch wrench and put it on this adjuster right here and turn counterclockwise, that will release any brake tension. Alright, next I can go ahead and loosen all of the 11/16 nuts. One thing I don't think I've ever mentioned, this entire tractor, everything I've been doing from the steering to the hydraulics to the rear end here, is all 11/16, so it makes it kind of nice. You always know exactly what wrench and socket to have. Okay, after you remove the nuts, all 6 of these, you can go ahead and, like I said, make sure that this adjustment, the brake adjustment, is counterclockwise as much as possible. And you actually have 2 options at this point. I just have this one bolt in here holding the backing plate on just for this demonstration here, but normally when you take all these 6 bolts off, you can grab the backing plate here along with the drum. Everything will come off as one unit. This brake shaft over here will also stay with it. It is riveted to it. It can't come off. It will pull out of the axle housing where the bushing is. But anyway, I always like to try and keep the backing plate. If it would stay stuck here, that's great because it's a lot lighter and the drum will just come off. But in this situation, like most situations, the whole thing wanted to come off. I've actually had this apart and put it back together and cleaned it for you. I'll show you what I had to clean here in just a second. But it's very important, again, that you back this off as much as possible. Most of these tractors on the inside of the drum, which I'll show you here in a bit also, they get like a little bit of a groove, and it is pretty hard to get separated sometimes. So you want to get a hammer and hit along the edges here to separate these 2 pieces. But there is nothing that actually holds it together. There's no bolts or anything. Any kind of a hang-up is going to be the brake pads up against the drum. So now that the brake drum is pulled off of the brake pads, you can go ahead and see a little bit what's going on here. This is the hub. You can see your axle bearing down in there. And like I said, there is a ridge that likes to develop right here where my finger is at. That makes it hard sometimes to separate, so kind of have to pound, go around evenly, and it will come apart eventually. And now that the drum is out of the way, you can see the brake pads. Again, like I said before, this is liable to have stayed inside the drum, and you can take it out later, but if you're lucky it will stay there. It is a little bit easier to deal with, but if it doesn't, that's okay too. Just take note of your springs and the colors and where they were at. If you want to, you can take a picture of it and I'll help you to remember. There was no shims on, actually it'd be on the back side here. There was no shims on this side other than the gaskets on here and on the opposite side. We'll probably find the shims on the other spot, but we'll talk about those a little bit later when we go to reassemble everything. Okay, now that everything has been removed right here, normally if you were just going to replace the oil seals, you'd be able to just stop right here and work on that. I'm going to do that a little bit later, but we're not done on this particular project. We're going to get to the differential, and that is what we're going to do now. There are 11 nuts going around the axle housing that need taken off. Also, if you're ever going to replace your lower link pins here, you have to take that off as well to replace that. If you wanted to replace just those pins, you could actually leave all that on and just remove the whole housing as a whole, and there's a castle nut on the inside, and you would be able to do that. Naturally, you'd have to drain the oil. But moving right along, I just wanted to point out one thing. Extremely important when you're doing this to have the tractor secured. I got blocks underneath it. I got a jack stand underneath the 1-foot peg on the other side, and I got this jack stand here. Naturally, when you take all that weight off, your tractor wants to be really heavy on one end. So we're going to go ahead and take this axle housing off. The differential should stay in the tractor. I say should. It will be on the axle shaft of the other axle over there, but just in case, keep your feet out of the way just in case it would go ahead and fall out. Okay, as you can see, the differential stayed right where it should have been, and this will just simply pull out. It's also got a lot of weight to it, so be careful how you grab it and make sure you have a good hold of it. After I pulled the differential out, I went ahead and just removed the axle and the housing, just like I did on this side of the tractor over there. And I just wanted to just touch on this pinion gear here. I'm going to show you right now a little shot I took during the last part when I had the hydraulics apart. I'll show you why I decided to just leave well enough alone and leave this all be. Okay, what you see is the whole rear end here, the whole housing, completely off of the tractor. I'm actually taping this clip right here while I was doing part 4 in the hydraulic restoration. I'm just including it in this part for the drivetrain and rear end, just because of this one gear. This is the whole ring and pinion and everything back here. This is in really good shape. There is no end play, there is no roughness, the bearings feel great. Judging by all the bearings in the axle and everything, they look fine, no pitting. So I'm just going to let this well enough alone. If you remember in part 3 when I took the steering apart, this is very similar with 2 nuts, and then you have the lock washer there that you bend down to hold the nuts in place. But this is just a good time to inspect this. It's kind of hard to rotate this when you have it hooked to the shaft of the transmission. Like I said, there's really no need to even go digging into this. The bearings are fine. They roll really nice. There's a bearing here as well. All the teeth there, all the teeth here look great. No chipping, no pitting. So I really wouldn't be gaining anything by tearing that apart and replacing the bearings. You also have to adjust the bearings as well, like any other bearing. You have to have the right drag and tension on it. But I just wanted to show you that in this segment and not include it with the hydraulic, because it really doesn't have anything to do with the hydraulic. Just one more thing to add about that is this is also very expensive to fix. There's a bearing right here that you can see, and then there's also another bearing on the other end. Just alone, those bearings are like 70 some dollars each, and then you also have a bearing here. I forget how much that one is, $30–40 to replace. And you also have to take out these rivets for this, I don't know what the technical name is for it, but I call it like a gutter. Its purpose is to catch oil from the ring gear. It'll hit that and it will roll over to the other bearing on the other side. But yeah, you would have to remove all that and reattach it. So that was another reason why I just left well enough alone. It seems to be in great shape, and I just don't want to open up a can of worms. Alright, as you can see, I went ahead and I installed the whole axle over there. I replaced the bearing in the hub. I replaced the original oil seal, and also I put a shore seal in. I also put brand new brakes. I did some things to the drum. I also had to add a Speedy sleeve to the axle. That was a little bit of a surprise repair, but I will show you all of what I did on the left hand axle. There's no sense of showing you both sides, making the video long and boring. I'm going to show everything I did on this side. It is quite a process to get the original seal out, the bearing out. Requires a couple handmade tools, a shop press, and a lot of patience. But I'm ready now to install the differential here. As you can see, I've already taken the bearings off. I chose not to show that because one, it really wasn't that exciting, and I actually had some trouble getting these off. One thing that makes it difficult is it's open here. It's hard. I have a regular bearing puller that you've seen in other episodes. It is too small for these big bearings. I tried the 2-claw puller here, and I had something going across here that was starting to bend. I tried a couple things, they all started to bend, but anyway, it was on there tight. I even tried heating it as I was pulling it, and I gave up. So what I did was I cut the bearing off, and as you can see, well, first I would have cut that section off of the outer cage there. Naturally, all your rollers fall out, and then you're just left with this on there. And what I did was I cut that with the air tool, and then I just put a chisel in there and I fractured it and split it, and once that happens it pretty much falls right off. I was just really surprised as to how hard that was to get off. A little bit of a surprise, but anyhow, I got both sides off. Just close inspection. The spider gears down in here, there's washers and everything. Everything looks fine. I never had any indication that anything was really wrong back here. The tractor was rather quiet, other than that one bad bearing in the transmission that you saw in a previous video. So I'm just going to leave well enough alone here. All these parts on the inside, the spider gears and everything, you can buy them new. The gear here, the ring gear, I can't remember if you can get a new one or not. I don't think so. But it would be quite a task. You would have to bust all these rivets off and get a used one. And if you have a bad gear here, I would just recommend getting a whole new assembly off of a parts tractor. But anyhow, I'm going to install the new bearings on here. I think I'm going to be pressing them in instead of heating them. I'm going to put this whole thing in the shop press here. But I'm going to do that, and then I'm also going to prepare the left-hand housing here with a new bearing race and the lower link pin gasket and all that stuff. So stay tuned for that. And then also, again, I'm going to go step by step as to how to take all that apart just in a few minutes here, so stay tuned. Okay, you saw me weld out the old race. I was going to heat the housing up with the acetylene torch. I had some issues with that, won't go into that, but so I decided just to press it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the race that I welded, flip it upside down, set it on there, and with another plate I'm just going to push it down in this way. Okay, so now we have the bearings on the differential pressed on, and got the new bearing race pressed in there real nice. Now I'm going to remove the link pin down here. There is a gasket right here. In order to get that off, you have to take this Carter pin off and the castle nut. There's also a bolt here from the other side, and we'll take that off and replace that gasket. I also like to put some RTV gasket around that before you put the nut on, also in the bolt, because this is exposed to a good bit of oil naturally, and just try to prevent any kind of a leakage down around here. But I'm going to remove that and try to get that all squared away. Now that the castle nut is off, I can go ahead and pull the pin off. You notice there is a gasket here. That's what I am wanting to replace. My suggestion for these pins are in here in this piece here. They do come out, but they are in there really good, and I just don't want to run the risk of maybe breaking this piece. I mic'd this just for curiosity and compared it to a new one. There's only about 10 thousandths wear on there, so that's basically nothing for this piece. So I'm just going to leave well enough alone, and I'm just going to replace that gasket. As you can see, I already have that cleaned up and that cleaned up, and I'm going to just put some gasket sealer on there and push this down in there and reinstall everything, and I'll show you on the nut what I do there. Okay, I'm going to put this castle nut back on. As you can see, I put some black gasket maker. The chances of this leaking through are probably pretty slim for how tight that goes in there. But just to make sure, that's what I'm going to do. I also just put a dab over here where that stud is, just for my own satisfaction. But for those of you who have an 8N who may be watching this, it's a little bit different design. I'd highly recommend putting a good bit around the pin before you push that in and tighten it. They have a little bit more tendency to leak the way that style setup is. Alright, as you can see, I slipped the differential in. All it does is just simply go in and slide on the shaft that's over there on that side. Just make sure that the teeth and the gears here are lined up so it actually goes in the whole way. I put some gasket sealer on the facing here, and I'm ready to install the gasket. Just some word of caution with these gaskets. They are very thin, and there is a reason for that. You cannot adjust the preload on these bearings. So if you wouldn't purchase these gaskets and you wanted to possibly make your own, you can't make these too thick, or this whole assembly would be kind of rocking back and forth a little bit too much. But anyway, I bought these. So also, this gasket will only go on one way. As you can see, there's 2 studs here. If you go down here, there's actually 3. This is like 5 inches apart, and this is only like 4 inches apart down here. So just be careful. Not be careful. It's just kind of a mind teaser at first if you don't realize that. But what I do is I like to get it on there nice and even, and it's a stretch, and I don't know why you don't think it would be, but it is. And I try to start from the bottom and do the stretching up this way, because if you were to rip it, the rip would be at the top, and there's really not as much oil action up there. You wouldn't want to rip it down here. So I'm going to carefully put this gasket on, and then I will be ready to simply put the empty housing on this side. And I'll just take a picture of that. It's really nothing that exciting. And just tighten all the 11 nuts the whole way around. Now that the differential is installed and the left axle housing is in place, now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. And I know a lot of people have been waiting for this. They've been asking me, when is this going to happen? Because this is quite an elaborate piece here. This is the hub, okay? This is this piece here, let me zoom in on it, is called a collar. That is a heat shrunk collar. What that meant was it was put on, it was red hot, it slides down over, it's just above the bearing that you can't see right now, and once it cools it shrinks itself onto there. You cannot get it off. That holds everything in place. Now the original seal, this is a replacement, but this is what the original one looks like. It is down in the bottom here. Well, actually it'd be on the outside when it's on the tractor. Okay, it's on the very outside. It is pressed into this housing. Several years ago there was an invention or an idea that came about that they came up with these, and it's called a Sure Seal. What that does is when you slide this down over the axle, it would press down into the hub where nothing was ever at before. Okay, this is a great idea. I'm not knocking it at all, but is it perfect? No, and here's why. When you use this, regardless of whether or not you replace the old worn out seal at the end, you have to pack these bearings full of grease, because they will no longer receive or see any oil. Okay, so you have to pack them. Now what happens is, through time, as a lot of you may know, oil separates from the grease, and when that happens, it would go through the old worn out seal and end up onto your brakes, causing it not to stop. The tractor won't stop. I hear a lot of people all the time saying, "Oh, these Ford tractors, the brakes, they're junk. They never worked." That is completely nonsense. There's nothing wrong with the brakes. If anything, it's just maybe the seal design wasn't the best. But however, I'm going to go and do what most people probably never do, very few. I'm going to actually replace both. Okay? And one other good thing about replacing this bottom one also is, if this fails, the Sure Seal, you have backup before it would get to your brakes. So basically what I'm doing is, now I'm completely 100% sealing that bearing that is down in the hub. I'm sealing it and just packing it full of grease, and it will never see oil again. And in all honesty, that's probably better. Oil has a lot of contaminants in it, and it would, instead of the oil just continually flushing through the bearings with dirt and everything, right now you're sealing it 100%. By the time that would need repacked, I guarantee you you'd probably need new seals anyway. So the next step is to take this collar off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole here and a hole on the opposite side, as big as I can get it without touching the axle, and I'm going to smack it with a chisel, and I'm going to crack it or fracture it enough to be able to pull it off. Now, do not attempt to cut that with a torch. I don't care how good you think you are. You can't take any risks, because if you make a nick anywhere on this axle, remember this seal is going to be riding on here now, and it would chew it up. So, and also if you were wanting to save the bearing, you would run the risk of destroying that too. I'm going to replace it anyhow while I'm this far into the project. But the next step is we're going to drill the hole. I'm going to take that off. You'll be able to see a lot better what's going on. Then after that, the bearing itself is actually pressed on this shaft as well. That is actually what's holding this hub on. I can't take it off. The bearing is actually pressed on, and this is holding it to secure it. I came up with a tool. Well, I didn't come up with it. I've seen a couple prototypes online, and I designed one myself, and I'm going to put it in a shop press and press this out. But again, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, there's really nothing wrong with just going with this, pack it full of grease, put the Sure Seal on, and you could be on your merry way. But if you feel up to the challenge, I definitely feel that it's worth to do both. It's really you're doubling your chances of success, and you're doubling the chances of it being durable for a lot longer time than just the one seal. So let's get at it. I'm going to start drilling. Now that the collar is off, you can see a little bit better. There is your roller bearings. This bearing is pressed down onto the shaft, and it prevents the hub from coming up. So I'm going to put a tool on it, and I'm basically going to use the hub to pull the bearing the whole way off the axle shaft. Alright, before I go ahead and pull this bearing and hub off, here's the tool that I made. It's just going to set down over the axle. It's going to use 4 of the axle or the hub studs, and I'm going to put nuts on there, and then this whole thing is going to fit into the shop press. I also left this open here for a reason. So I can just put a little bit of heat on that bearing in the hopes that it will expand a little bit and just help with the ease of getting it off. That way it will put less stress on these studs, and just put less stress on the tool and everything. But I'm going to go ahead and get this all set up, and you'll get a better understanding of how it works. Okay, I got everything set up the way I wanted it to be. As you can see now, basically what this tool that I made is doing is it's bolted to the hub, like I said. It is holding the hub stationary as I push the axle down through, which causes the bearing to get pressed off of the shaft. Just a couple important things here. I just have this big old washer here to protect the top of the shaft. You never want to mess that up. Also, just make sure that everything is centered and you're not really putting any more stress on one stud than what you have to. This looks really good. a couple of these I just had to tighten a little bit, and what it does is it just adjusts everything perfectly. So like I said, I'm just going to heat up the bearing a little bit in there with just a little propane torch in the hopes that it expands it a little bit. Generally these things are really tight at first, but once it starts moving it goes off pretty good. Okay, you saw the hub and bearing being removed. Now I can go ahead and drive that axle seal off. That is the original one right there. And then also you're going to see me weld out the bearing race, and so the hub will be completely stripped, and it will be ready to install a new race and a new oil seal. Okay, I got the old race out by welding it, as you saw. I went ahead and polished this all up, cleaned the whole hub, degreased it. I even ran a dye over the threads to get them nice and cleaned up. And normally you saw in a couple past videos, I'd heat a piece up to get the new race in. Since this is down in there so far before it actually gets tight, I really have a hard time getting it straight, and it's just so hot even with real good gloves on to get it in there. So I'm just going to use the shop press again and get everything lined up real nice and press that new bearing race in. The bearing race is started. I pushed it in there by hand and got it nice and straight. I'm going to use the old bearing race that I welded out of there just as a tool. Fits in there real good, and then I'm going to grab this big washer, and then I can go ahead and press it down until it stops. Now it's turned over, and I'm going to press the old original style oil seal in. I went ahead and I filed the edges of these. These things are extremely tight to go in there. I did that just to try to get a little bit more rounded to help it go in there straight. If you notice this seal, there's like an open end and then like a flat end. You want this open end to actually, when it's on the tractor, it would be facing in towards the tractor. These hubs are a little bit unique. These studs are actually going to be facing in towards the tractor. It's not like a normal, the wheel isn't going to bolt to that. So you want that down, and this open end of the seal is going to be pressed downward, and the flat side is going to be facing upward. Okay, I got it started. Take your time. It almost seems like these seals are too big, like it will never fit. But I got it started, and it's nice and even right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue pressing it down. And it's going real nice. And you don't want to get too crazy because you can flatten it out if you hit, there's a part where it's a ledge where it rests. It doesn't hurt to stop and just take a look. Alright, now we're back at the axle and drum here, and I have everything all degreased and shined up. This is where the original seal would ride at. I don't know if you can see by my fingernail, there's a line there and a line there. This whole spot right here, from here where my nail is down, has got a little bit of a wear, especially where the lines are, where the double lip seal was riding. On the other side that I didn't show, this was actually a lot more worn. So what I do is I get a what they call a Speedy sleeve, and I'm going to put it down over here. I'll show you what that is in a little bit. But I just went ahead and shined up. This is where the bearing was pressed on. I shined up all this, just make sure there's no burrs of any kind or dirt. Also, you want to shine this part up here. This was never in use originally. However, with the shore seal, that is where it will ride. So you want to make sure that is nice and clean and smooth. I also went around, and you can see the grind marks the whole way around. Remember I said when I was taking it off, they do get a little bit of a ridge or a ledge there, and by getting rid of that, it definitely helps the installation of the brakes, because you got new pads, they're thicker, and it just gives you a clearance. I went around that and smoothed it as best as I can. It's really not that crucial because the pad does not even hit there. But I'm going to show you what the Speedy sleeve is all about. Okay, this is the Speedy sleeve. This is stainless steel. It is very thin, but yet is very strong. And what this is designed to do is slip down over the axle, and then right where it goes to where it gets tight, where we want to put it, you have to drive it down over. Now there's all different kinds of size available for these, for all different kind of applications. So you have to measure this size, and then you look at a chart, and it'll tell you which size Speedy sleeve to use. This is 2 3/8 inch, and I just got the proper sleeve that will stretch out to that much. Now these kits do come with a driver, and this driver is useless in this situation because of the shaft is so long, but if you were on a shorter shaft right at the end, you would put this in, and then you would just pound it or tap it in. This is a little edge, or I call it a top hat. This is actually designed, you cut that after you get it on there, and you rip it right off. It's got a perforated a line the whole way across there. But since I can't use this, I'm going to, I got a PVC pipe 2-inch connector, and originally it fit in here really smooth, but like I said, it does expand. So I actually had to ream this out with a Dremel tool a little bit, just to give it enough gap inside there that it will allow it to expand. So what I do is I go ahead and put this over, and I'm going to get a little hammer and tap around and just try to get it started as straight as possible. Then I'll put this over, and I will tap down with a long pipe that's longer than the axle. And there you have it. You saw it getting driven on. This is now over the bad spot or the worn out area. This will assure that the seal, the new seal, is going to ride on a true perfect surface. You can put a brand new seal on a worn out shaft and it isn't going to seal. You'll just be basically doing your work for nothing. To all the machinists out there, or somebody saying, why didn't I just go ahead and weld that up and have it machined down? Couple reason is, one, first of all, I'm not a machinist. I really don't know any machinist in my area that I would trust. There's one individual, he's okay, but it would probably take 6 months before I'd get it back. I'm sure that this drum would cause, this is all heavy, I'm sure it would cause some kind of a little bit of an issue to work around with to machine that. I have heard that it can be done, but for the quickness of the repair and for the cost, even though these are kind of expensive, they're around $30–40, it's just a really nice, simple, easy fix. Okay, I cut a little notch, and now I can go ahead and remove the little ridge that goes around. It simply just rips off. A lot of applications you really wouldn't have to worry about removing this. I think this is actually, you probably wouldn't have to move this in this case, but I'm just going to show you how you do it. It's amazing how thin something is, but yet it's got a lot of strength to it. Okay, the next step, we're going to need the shop press once again. I got everything set up here the way I need it to be. We're going to go push the new bearing on, but first we got to take the hub that we did and just slide it over there, over the new Speedy sleeve. It's a nice fit, and that is just going to sit there loose. And then I'll bring the bearing, and it's going to go down into there. And then I'm going to have a tube, metal pipe, to go. It's going to be higher than the axle, and that will push down, and it will cause that bearing to get pressed down into the bearing race area. And now you can see the bearing, the new one, is pressed down here. You want to make sure when you're pressing it down that you go the whole way until it stops. If not, you'll really run into problems later when you go to adjust the bearing preload, if that isn't down the whole way. Now the next step is to put this brand new collar on. This is what we were drilling out and chiseled off before. What we're going to do is, see, naturally it stops. We're going to heat this up, and it has to be cherry red. I mean, it has to be really, really hot to expand and then go down over this thicker part right up above the bearing. When that cools, it will literally just pretty much become one. It will weld itself and shrink right down on air. This is to hold the bearing in place, that nothing will slide back and forth when you're operating the tractor. But again, you have to have this red hot. If it's not, what will happen is it will go down, it will instantly contact the axle, and it will just stop, and there's no way you could get it off, except you'd have to cut the brand new one off and get a new one and start all over again. Now we just gotta wait till all that cools. Alright, as I was waiting for that collar to cool down, I went ahead and you saw me grinding along the shore seal here. And I also kind of put a more of a taper. That is to help it get started in the hub. I don't know why, it's kind of frustrating with all these Chinese parts at times. There is almost no way. I would be really worried if I didn't grind it. And I've heard people having problems with this. If you don't do anything like that, you run the risk of actually buckling this, and then once you do that, it'd be junk and it won't go in there nice and centered and flat. So I went ahead and ground that off a little bit, and I just kind of went up, took it on and off, and trying to get the right fit. You naturally don't want to take too much off because then it would be too loose in there, but I got it just right, just the way I want it. But before I go ahead and install this, we're going to do a very important thing, and that is to pack the bearing full of grease. Now I know a lot of you are probably saying, well, why didn't you do that before? Well, the reason is with the heat of that collar, it does get the bearing pretty hot, so it would be sizzling and just basically burning all the grease up. So you have to kind of do it now, and I'm going to show you how I do it. A couple people out there might request you do a certain way, but I'll show you here in just a second. Okay, I use a grease injector needle. I think that's what they call them. Anyhow, it just goes right on the end of your grease gun. And then now I can go ahead down into, way down into the roller and inject the grease. There's quite a bit of a cavity from the bottom of the roller bearing to that the original seal down there. So you got to fill that all up. You got to be very, very generous and put a lot of grease. We're going to pack this whole thing full of grease. Even smear it up here because that's where the shore seal is going to be riding. And also I would recommend to please get some good quality grease. I know there's a lot of grease out there that's just very liquidy and just really doesn't hold up very well. Get some kind of the red and tacky or even marine grease would be fine. This particular grease is Lucas brand. It's their heavy construction grease. It seems to be really good. So we're going to go ahead and inject some of this in. You can also see when you go ahead and put it down in there, like 2 or 3 rollers down after that bottom gets filled up with grease, it will be oozing up through. So you know that it is getting pretty well packed, pretty good. I'm just kind of working it around. It takes a lot of grease. I'd say at least half of a cartridge goes into each side. You got to make sure that this is packed really well because the bearing will not see any gear oil now once you put that shore seal on. A lot of you that maybe don't want to attempt to pull the bearing off and everything, this is what you would still have to do if you're adding shore seals. You got to make sure that it's packed really, really good, because the only time it's going to see oil is the next time that the shore seal actually fails, and then oil would get into there then. But hopefully that won't be for a long, long time. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and tap real lightly around here to try and get this seal started straight in there. It's a little bit tricky, but once you get it straight, I'm going to go ahead and then put a 3-inch PVC pipe that fits perfectly around the outer edge, and I'm going to drive it down, and it should drive it a little bit more even. It's very crucial that you go even, because the rubber seal here, if you go a little bit crooked, you can even tell there will actually be a gap on one side. So you got to make sure that it is perfectly straight down and level. Okay, we got it drove down to where the seal is almost flush with the hub, and that's what you want to do. You want to get the seal flush with the hub. Two reasons. One, when you can see that it is completely flush around, the seal, the rubber seal itself is perfectly centered on the axle. It's not cocked one way or the other, and it's just getting a nice even seal the whole way around. Also, if you would go down any further, you remember that collar that underneath there that we heated up to get on, the collar will actually rub on this and cause it to be kind of stiff. One, you don't want it rubbing, and then also when you go to have put the shims and everything on, if you don't have a little bit of movement in the hub going up and down, that will probably affect it for that adjustment later on down the road. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use just this plate of steel here with a nice edge, and I'm going to go around and tap on that, so that way it will come nice and flush. I'll go the whole way across the seal and the hub. It won't go down too far. And there you can see it is perfectly flush the whole way around. The rubber seal seems to be perfectly centered, or the axle seems to be perfectly centered. We got enough movement in there that nothing is bound up, and we're ready to go on to the next step. Just one more thing, like when you saw me hitting across there, you don't want to bang up the edge of this hub. The slightest little burr will prevent you from getting the hub back into the axle housing, believe it or not. So if you watch yourself, you won't hurt anything, but if you just take note, if you see any kind of a little dent there after you did that, go ahead and just file that off, because it will hold you up, surprisingly. Okay, the next step, we are going to be replacing the brake shoes. As you can see, if anybody has ever torn apart drum brakes on a car or truck, these look very, very similar. However, these springs are extremely stiff. There is a lot of tension on there, so I recommend definitely safety glasses, face shield, body armor. Alright, maybe that's getting a little extreme, but just be careful. It is extremely dangerous if one of them things would let go. And basically, if you have some brake drum tools like I have here, it surely does make life a little bit easier. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove these springs and remove the little springs up here that hold the pads in place. I went ahead and removed all those 4 springs that hold the pads, and the reason is this is extremely strong over here. So when I do that, I can grab the pads and kind of pull out. It will relieve some of the tension. And I'm going to pick it up over here. There we go. And then I'll pick it up over here. And that's how I get the spring off. And then to put it on, I go ahead and put the spring back on and then spread the pads out over to where they lock into it. Okay, I have one of the pads here just to explain a couple stuff. The original pads will have rivets in them. Or if they still have rivets, you know, they would have been bought at a Ford dealership. I mean, basically they'd be really old. The new ones now, I'll show you here in a second, they're like glued on and they don't have rivets. A lot of people insist on, you know, running a torch over there to burn off all the oil. I cleaned these real good before I even took the brakes apart there, but it was just like that, all mucky and everything. 2 reasons why I don't like to do that. One, you'd be surprised, especially through time, that these pads will actually get kind of loose, and in the rivets you'll actually see them move. That oil will creep down through and be stuck in between there, and you think you got it all by torching it off, and eventually it'll start oozing out of there again. Also, I have heard a couple times that these original brake pads do contain asbestos, so that's probably not a good idea to sit there and start burning them off. Due to the age of these tractors and asbestos being very popular during that time, I would probably assume that they would be contain asbestos. Another reason why I just go ahead and get new pads is on the other side that I didn't show. The one was actually just ripping off. The padding was coming off, so it really, there's nothing you can do about it, can't fix it. So I'll show you a new one right now. Here is the new one. Notice there are no rivets. They're glued on there somehow, but you know, they're exactly the same shape. There's really nothing different. These are way bigger than an 8N. 8N has smaller pads. They're about the same width, but they're not quite as long. But we're going to go ahead and get things cleaned up, and then I'll be ready to install these new ones. Okay, I got all the 4 springs in place. I just got this green one and then a red one left. And as always, it's a pretty big stretch. Alright, I'm now going to put the new felt dust seal around there. I went ahead and just spread this open a little bit with some pliers just to help get this in. Also, it helps if you kind of get it started and then you just kind of pull on it, stretch it, it'll make it skinnier and it will go right down in. And then after I get it in far enough, I'll just go around and just clamp it with the pliers and stiffen it up so it'll stay in there. I had to trim a little bit off, it was a little longer than needed. I'm just going to go around and push it down and just go around and squeeze it. It's still a little bit of a challenge to get it all down into the drum, which you'll see here in a little bit. Before I go and put the whole brake assembly down into the drum here, I'm going to just put some gasket sealer around. Once I go ahead and do that, I can go ahead and put a gasket down here. And then I'll also put gasket sealer on the backing plate that makes contact with this gasket. This is the original Ford Gray, by the way. It's real well preserved, so if you ever want to get a good match for it, that's a good place to look. I also find it a lot of times in the oil bath cleaners. It's always been oily and it's never been exposed to the sun, so you're not going to get any more better than that. Okay, I got that all tapped down in. Like I said before, right before the felt started to go into the drum, I just kind of stop, and there's a couple places where you have to just tuck it in with a screwdriver and just tap around as you go. I really wasn't hitting it too hard, but it is just getting a little bit of drag from the brakes. Remember how I ground out the ridge in the drum? That really helps the process out. If not, you'd really have to be whacking that with some force. But all this is together now, and the next step will be sliding the whole thing into the axle housing. We're now ready to put the entire hub and brake assembly back onto the tractor. I just wanted to take a minute here to show you. I have just one gasket here. I'm going to start out with that, and I'm going to show you how to adjust the bearing preload. Remember this part of the axle, this surface, I'm going to refer to that when I get that in there, but just make sure that all the surfaces are naturally clean, and we're going to hoist this thing up in there and tighten down all the 6 nuts that hold the hub on there. Okay, I brought you around to the back side, and we just put that side on, okay? And I'm going to show you what too tight of a bearing preload looks like. I'm glad that it did this just so I can show you. Remember, I only have basically the gasket on over there, so it's no surprise that it really did this. But when I rotate this side towards the front, notice how the other side is going with it. You do not want to see that. That means when I showed you the top of that axle, it was real shiny. That means both axles are together and it's way too tight. They're both rotating at the same time. Between those two axles, it needs to be anywhere between 2 to 6 thousandths clearance. So they're always kind of touching when you're driving the tractor around, but they're not too tight. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go over there and just add one more shim, put it back on, try the rotating test, and when you spin it and they go in opposite directions, you just keep adding shims until you get that opposite direction effect. Then you know that you're okay, and the bearing itself isn't too tight into the race, and the axles in the center are not too tight as well. Okay, just took out the axle one more time, and I'm going to add a shim. This is a metal shim from a previous project. I'd sooner use the metal other than the paper shims. These shims here are actually gaskets. That's what you get now. The gasket and the shim is basically, well, it is the same thing. So I'm just going to use a metal one here, and I'm adding just a thickness to it, and that will loosen up those axles and bearings. Now I might have to add more, I don't know, so we're going to have to put it back on the tractor and do the spin test one more time. Okay, this is attempt number 2. We added that shim and we're almost there. If you see, it kind of turns and it kind of slips too. So that means it's almost getting there. I think one more shim will probably do it. So we're going to take it off once more time and add one more shim. Okay, this is attempt number 2. We added that shim and we're almost there. If you see, it kind of turns and it kind of slips too. So that means it's almost getting there. I think one more shim will probably do it. So we're going to take it off once more time and add one more shim. Okay, we added that extra shim, and then now we're right where we want to be. Notice when I rotate it this direction that the other side is going the opposite way. This is how you can tell if there's no bind in between the two axles. Now I have a little bit of a brake drag on that side. The drum must be a little out of round because sometimes it will stop when I rotate this, and that's okay too, just as long as those two axle shafts aren't touching. And then once everything's bathed in oil, it'll be even better. Okay, so everything is put back together for the last time, and tightened everything down. By the way, I tightened these nuts to about 60-65 foot-pounds with the torque wrench to make sure that each one is torqued the same. There is no torque setting in the manual. I just went with that number because I felt it was good. But if you noticed in the last couple of those scenes, I did not have the clutch pedal on just because it is loose on this shaft, and I just didn't want it flopping around. So the final time, when I knew it was going to be good, I just went ahead and put that on. Okay, I just want to show you an adjustment. A lot of people actually don't know this about the 9-ends and 2-ends. When you push your clutch pedal in the whole way, your brake pedal should start to go down, and when you push on the pedal the whole way with the clutch, this wheel will actually stop. The brake will be activated. So for example, if you were on a hill and you wanted to come to a complete stop, you would push your foot on the clutch and push your other foot on the brake over there, and both brake pedals would be locked up, and you would come to a stop. The free play on the clutch is around 3/16 from this piece right here to the top of the clutch rod here, and then about 1 9/16 the clutch pedal should come in contact with this brake actuator here. I guess that's what you call it, but you can adjust it by this bolt right here, and we won't be able to tell 100% until we get the tractor with the wheels on and move it around, but I have everything set pretty much the way it will be, and it should just require just minor adjustment. Other than the wheels, the fenders, the seat, the lift arms, and putting the hood back on, I would say that this project is pretty much done. And I'm going to end this series right now, so this isn't too entirely long. I think we're over an hour already, so I just want to end it. I want to do some little things like change the battery cables and change a couple oil fittings that are leaking, but for the most part this project is done. Right now the weather isn't cooperating it's not real nice out there, so I'm not going to get any footage of it riding around on this part 6. So if you want to see this tractor in action and see all the little maybe minor adjustments when it comes to the brakes, I will be posting that at a later time. So comment, rate, and subscribe. Subscribe to my channel, and hopefully we'll be doing even more projects like this. As far as the what's going to be done with this tractor, it is going to be completely stripped down again and repainted the proper all gray, and it is just going to be a show tractor. I'm going to use it a little bit here early spring, maybe do some brush hogging with it just to see, you know, everything is working properly, and then after that it's going to go into retirement. So I hope everybody enjoyed this series. My goal was to just help some people out. I see a lot of times on the internet and such, a lot of new people, a lot of young people getting into this hobby and liking the Ford tractors, and I know they all have a lot of questions, and hopefully that this series will answer a lot of those questions. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.